everyone. Let's get dangerous. Who are you talking to?
No one. Your mama. Shut up. Take your pick.
It's Jake Ciely.
He's opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in fantasy, tales of the ranks.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No. Burn.
Merry Christmas Eve, or Merry Christmas, you ducks. It is All in Fantasy. Jake Ciely, as you can see, with the Christmas-ish. I mean, it's Donald Duck. Did you expect anything else? And Tip is easy to find because he's like, where's the reverse Where's Waldo? Because the stripes aren't quite as thick the other way around. You have the thick white instead of the thick red, but at Tipp Major. Also easy to find there with 2 P's, by the way, if you want to follow him on the X, Twitter, whatever the heck, with Football Guy. Actually, one more time. You were here before, and everybody loves you. So one more time, but tell everybody else, besides Football Guys and everything like that, where they can make sure to check out your work and listen to you and everything that you got going on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jake, again for being here. Yeah, you know, I did do the Where's Waldo. I didn't think of that, but my sister, when she saw me wear the shirt like a while ago, she was like, "Yeah, you look like Where's Waldo." And I was trying to go for more of a chocolate candy cane, but I mean, hey, it's cool. I'll use the Where's Waldo. I should have got the glasses because I got some glasses from a Halloween costume a few years back.
That would have been perfect.
Should have got the glasses, yeah, but I'll do that next time. But no, Tipp Major, yes, Football Guys, of course, and then at the sports affiliation, I work with Greg Kellogg. We do a Thursday checkdown show every Thursday before the game. And then after the game, you check me out on Spaces with Ripper. We go on there and we talk about the game that happened Thursday night. So, yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to be on here. Happy holidays to everybody, and happy holidays to yourself. Yes. Merry Christmas, Jake. And, man, I really appreciate you having me on again.
No, well, thank you. And thank you for taking time. It's an insane week because the NFL said we're taking over Christmas too. And, yes, we are going to turn around. Depending on when you're listening to this, tomorrow, when you're celebrating Christmas, we have 2 football games. As a reminder, set your lineups for those 2 football games. We're going to talk about that. Not a lot about Monday Night Football because there wasn't much to talk about from that one, but mostly kind of wrap in waivers to rankings because it is a weird week, and rankings only matter with waivers only matter for rankings at this point because it's championship week. Hopefully you're not playing in week 18. Please don't play in week 18. If you play in week 8, I'll say this. Please don't play your redraft, regular season, anything, dynasty. Don't play your championship in week 18. Championship week 17, if you want to do a one-off draft, I've done those before in my fantasy league, or anything DFS or anything, like just a side bet for fun to keep it going, sure, but please don't. Because I actually included this tip just to, this is insane. I don't remember a year where we've had potentially this many teams. Usually it's like 2 or 3. I listed all the potential teams resting players in week 18 in the waiver column. Chiefs, Bills, Texans, Chargers, Broncos, Lions, Eagles, Rams, and Commanders could all of them, depending on week 17, could be locked in with nothing to play for outside. The Commanders, Chargers, and Broncos could be playing for the 6-7 jockey if that matters that much to them. I mean, you got to think maybe. I don't know if it really would. And then I think the only one is potentially, depending on what happens with the Falcons, Buccaneers, and Rams, that one can go out the window. But the AFC could almost be locked up as of this outside the Ravens and the Steelers. But anyway, point being, please don't play in week 18. Speaking of the Ravens and the Steelers, within the division is where I want to go first because there was a big pickup-ish at late this year. It was Jerome Ford when Nick Chubb got hurt. And we had seen Jerome Ford before. And something I had said last week is we had seen Jerome Ford before, but we'd also seen who? Deonta Foreman before. And we did see Deonta Foreman in this game, Tip. And what did he do? The exact concern we had was steal the short yard and goal line. The problem was he stole the goal line, but then gave the ball to the other team who stole it because he fumbled it, and then he was never seen in it again. He got sent to Sanders' workshop because nobody knows where Deonta Foreman is after that point. Legitimately did not touch the ball after that point. Saying that, if Jerome Ford was out there, or maybe you picked him up to block and you're like, you know what? I don't want to risk it. Let's see what happens. Seeing the usage and the fact that after that, we're talking about almost 90% of the touches. The Cleveland Browns host the Dolphins this week. Is Jerome Ford top 20? Is Jerome Ford entering your Week 17 championship lineup?
He is. Yes, absolutely. And you know the thing the thing about that whole Deonta Foreman vulture was right after a Jerome Ford big run. And usually when they have those big runs like that, the the coordinators or the head coach like to give the player who got that run the ball again. You got us down here. Thank you. Let's give you. And they just totally went opposite on there. And then it just happened, like you said, he fumbled the ball down to Foreman, and then we didn't see him anymore. So I think Jerome Ford is locked in this week. It is a tough matchup. I will say this: the Miami Dolphins, the last 3 games that they played, they're only giving up 80 yards rushing. So total. So that is a little bit of a concern. But with DTR, if DTR plays, we got to see what his situation is.
Yeah, of course.
But if DTR plays, you know that they're going to be rushing a little bit more. The Browns have been on average of the last 3 games rushing over 130 yards. So I think Jerome Ford has a case here to be one of those guys locked into your championship. I have him ranked at number 16 right now. So I think he is locked in as a running back for me. RB2 for sure.
I'll tell you how much I think he's an RB2, but I'm going to save that for later. There's somebody that I think people might go, holy crap, is he really saying this? And I think I might have that for a tease within the podcast. But we have to talk. This is going to kind of focus primarily on waivers heading into ranks, as you've seen. So next up is the Cardinals. Now, this is just a situation. This might be, by the time you listen to it on Friday after you've opened all your presents and been disappointed, or happy, hopefully happy, returning things to the stores, who knows. The Cardinals might have James Conner, might not. So we're going to, obviously, if James Conner's out there, there's nothing to be had here. The question that lies, and this is why we'll timestamp because you can skip right past it, if Trey Benson can return, which is a question mark, and there is no James Conner, I have Trey Benson probably as speculation as of right now. I'd say he probably falls into low-end RB2 because I do think Carter would be involved in some because Benson has missed time. Right. And then Carter would be a flex RB3 like an Antonio Gibson, maybe an RB4. If Trey Benson is out, I don't know that Michael Carter even gets into the RB2 conversation because we have everybody on the table. We can play everybody's championship week because how many times have we seen Michael Carter? And I'm a Michael Carter fan, by the way. Buried underneath behind me within my set is a signed mini helmet by him that I had in person because I was hoping he would be the thing, hoping he would be Austin Eckler-like. That did not happen, and I don't think he would be in the RB2 conversation for me. Are you with me on that, like that whole breakdown of the Cardinals here?
Yeah, and DJ Dallas too is kind of a little bit of
it's another factor.
Yeah, that's a weird one too. So I almost want to stay away from this Cardinals situation. I want to stay away from this team in general. This team has been a total disappointment for the last month of the season. They came back from that. They came back in that win, and I predicted the Jets to go in there and beat up on the Cardinals because I thought that the Jets were at that time, turning a corner. They got Devontae Adams. They were turning a corner. And the Cardinals did exactly what I didn't think was going to happen. They beat up on the Jets. And then for the next 4 or 5 games, the Cardinals just look inept on the offensive side. James Conner has been great. And I like Trey Benson. The last time we talked, we talked a little bit about him. I do love Trey Benson. Yeah. If he is going to play, I think this is an option for him to get the ball a few times. I mean, look, you're talking about Michael Carter. You're talking about DJ Dallas. There is no Amari DiMercado. There's possibly no James Conner. So get the rookie some touches, man, as long as he's healthy. But I think if all 3 of the guys are healthy, DJ Dallas, Michael Carter, and Trey Benson, I'm out. I'm not even going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it.
Okay, I'm with you. It's week 17, so hopefully you don't have to go this far. But, you got to think like maybe somebody had James Conner, David Montgomery, and potentially this next running back in Kenneth Walker, is, if he comes back, gets hurt again, it almost sounds like you would assume he's missing. This is very clear to me. Like, I know they have the playoffs on the line, but if Kenneth Walker is out there, I don't think with how well Charbonnet played that they're going to be like, hey, we have to get in with Kenneth Walker. I think if Kenneth Walker plays, he's fine. So I'm saying if Kenneth Walker's out, is this as simple as before? Charbonnet right back inside the top 15? Like, this is like, don't even think twice?
I would like to say that, but damn, I was really wrong on this one because I thought that Charbonnet, coming this week.
Split?
I thought it was going to be an even split. I was on a space. It
wasn't even close.
I was on a space with Scott the King Angle and Sam Wagman of Football Guys and Ronnie Evans. We were all over here. Everybody was getting on to me because I was like, don't be surprised if Charbonnet starts splitting carries or splitting touches and we have a true 50-50 split. Like you said, it wasn't even close to that. And I didn't know what to think of it, especially when they named him captain or starter at the beginning of the game? What did they do with all of that? It was so confusing. I was like, and then when it happened, when they named him the starter, I was like, look, guys, look, he's the starter. He's the starter. That meant absolutely nothing. And
it was thank you for your service.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, you've been busting your hump these last few weeks while Kenneth Walker was out. He had a tough week the week before against Green Bay, okay, but that's a tough defense. But you've shown that you can play and you can be a piece in this offense, and they just went right to Kenneth Walker. So that tells me that maybe Charbonnet's not all the way healthy, or maybe Kenneth Walker is just that guy. He what eight receptions, like on 8 targets for Kenneth Walker. It was crazy. Yeah.
So I agree. I think like I said, in the waiver column, I'd have Kenneth Walker as an RB2 range if he plays, as I said, and only RB2 because of the injury. Like if we knew Kenneth Walker with that kind of usage coming back in his first game was going to be 100, like you told me he's going to play the entire game, he'd probably be pushing RB1 status, mostly because of the passing game. As you just brought up, the targets have just been insane this year. Right. The bigger one here is, I think this is kind of like a quick question. If J.K. Dobbins comes back, do you even risk him? Because we know he has top 20 upside, but do you even turn to J.K. Dobbins?
I think you do. They're going against the Patriots. The Patriots are giving up something like 159 yards rushing the last 3 games. I think you have to go to J.K. Dobbins. He has been the missing piece in this offense. This offense has been...
Oh, it doesn't look the same.
Yeah, okay, I understand Gus Edwards got a 44-yard rush last week, and that was his longest rush in 5 years.
I was going to say, I'm glad you had that. I was going to ask how long that had been.
Yeah, it was his longest. It was the longest rush in 5 years, and it was funny.
Do you know what the other thing was? It was his highest rushing total of the year. It was his highest fantasy points per game or points period of the year. He doubled his touchdown total for the year. That was. Anyway, that was infuriating.
I just wouldn't really fall for that. I understand Gus Edwards can always take the goal line touches away from, but then again,
there's no way in hell.
Yeah,
Gus Edwards is in my lineup.
You're right. We talked about this last time. You can't trust Jim Harbaugh. You can't trust Sean Payton. You can't trust these coaches and what they're going to do. So I think if J.K. Dobbins is healthy and he's readily available, I think you got to start him against this Pats. They're going to want to get him involved so that way he can be a little bit more acclimated or a little bit more refreshed once the playoffs come in, because that's the one thing. So I still think you have to play J.K. Dobbins just because I think he means so much to that offense.
Okay. Yeah. That's one where
scary.
It depends on the other options. This is an interesting pivot into it, and I think works well, is taking Dobbins compared to. Would you take J.K. Dobbins? We have the rematch. So there's 2 teams. I want to talk about both their backfields. The rematch, hopefully it's not just like 2 weeks ago now. Well, 2 games ago, so 3 weeks ago. The Titans-Jaguars was miserable the first time around.
Oh, God.
But what we did see is what we've pretty much known all year. This is not telling anybody anything they don't know. Is when the Jaguars are closer with the lead, Tank Bigsby. When the Titans are closer with the lead, Tony Pollard. Yeah. When it's the other way around, it's the other 2. It's Spears and it's ETN. The interesting thing here is trying to predict who wins this damn game and trying to predict when the Titans or Jaguars even have leads or even in control. So before we dive deeper into them, if J.K. Dobbins is back, are you with me where I would risk the upside of J.K. Dobbins over risking a game script on 2 split backfields? Are you with me on that one?
Yes, I am. I'm okay. 100% on it with it.
So the next level of it is Tony Pollard hasn't been practicing, hasn't been healthy. The last 2 weeks, he's also not getting his workload, including at the goal line. Mm-hmm. So if I even told you the Titans had a lead in this game, would you even trust Tony Pollard in that scenario? Or because he just hasn't been healthy, do you think this is kind of out the window at this point?
I think it's out the window. It's hard to trust Tony Pollard right now. And look, he had a couple of runs last week where he ran hard. He looked good. But Tajay Spears looks just that much better, and he looks that much faster, that much more elusive. They're utilizing him in the red zone as well. They're throwing dump passes to him and Tajay Spears, and he's getting some moves, and he's making moves against the defenders and getting in the end zone. So that right there in of itself is telling me that Spears is being utilized not only all over the field, but now even in the red zone. I think you have to go his route moving forward, or the championship week. If you have Tony Pollard, you just got to hope that you have other options at this point.
Would you even risk Tank Bigsby? Because it was a Tank Bigsby game last week or last time. But I mean, if they fall behind early, you just never know.
You're right. It's
here. I'll give you a toss up. You have to. For everybody out there, by the way, you do not have to set your lineup today. You don't have to set your lineup tomorrow. The only thing you have to do tomorrow or Christmas, depending if you waited till Christmas to listen to this, is set the lineup for Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, and Texans. That's it. End of the list. Thursday, Seahawks, Bears. End the list. That's it. It happens every year. It happened last week too. Like, I know how excited you are. Heck, I'm with you. I set my waivers for my championship game in my home league last night during Monday Night Football because that's how excited I wanted to make sure. I am with you in wanting to but you don't have to set your lineup. Right. So pause, get all the information, see how this plays out. But as of today, Tip, if I told you you have to set your lineup on Tuesday and make this decision, Tank Bigsby versus Tyrone Tracy against the Colts, is the answer Tracy?
I'm going Tracy. Look, and another thing I wanted to say on as far as the last time that the Jaguars and the Titans played, they scored a total of 16 points. It was 6-10.
As I said, it's gross.
That was the worst. That was the worst point total so far this season amongst two teams. So I would definitely go Tyrone Tracy. I know it's been ugly with him, but we saw him get a red zone catch last week. I think that it can happen again against the Colts. The Colts have been scoring points. They're going to have to utilize Tyrone Tracy. The Colts are also not as good against the run. So yeah, I'm going Tracy 100% over Tank Bigsby.
I'm with you on that one. All right, so Chiefs. This was one that I don't know where you were, but admittedly did not expect this. When Pacheco came back, it said, hey, he's the incumbent, probably not going to be 70% of the workload, but it'll be his in time. And the first game was 50-50. We're like, ooh, he already got 50 in his first game. Second game comes out. It actually did go up. He upticked in the second game. We're like, all right, this is exactly what we expected. Pacheco's going to get the lead back. The next game, nope. Back to 50-50, and everybody, I was one who was concerned. There were people who were out there like, well, it was revenge narrative because he faced the Browns and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, maybe, but I'm still hesitant. I was still worried. He was in my worry report. And even I'm saying that to not be like, I told you. I'm saying that as even somebody who was worried wasn't expecting it to happen again last week. Happened so much so that he didn't even get 50%. Hunt got 50%, and he got somewhere around 40%. They know head to Pittsburgh. I hate to say it because it's the Chiefs tip, but of Bigsby, if I'm taking the leads, I would probably go Bigsby and Spears with you. I would go Tracy over both. I would go Dobbins over both. But I would go all four of those guys over Pacheco or Hunt against the Steelers. I'm sitting the backfield of the Chiefs. I can't believe it in championship week against the Steelers because you can't trust it.
You can't, and it's so crazy because, like you just broke down beautifully how Pacheco's last few games were. Last week, or week 14 or 15, I was on the Pacheco train because I thought, okay, this is his third game back. He should be good to go. He should be ready. And then when I saw what happened in the splits, it was an equal split, 13 carries amongst the both of them, Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. I said, this is one of those situations where they might be wanting they want to see what they have in Pacheco, see how strong he's running, and then say, okay, we're going to scale down your work at the end of this season because we're going to need you in these playoffs, in the NFL playoffs. So that's exactly what I think has happened. And so this last week, I told people to sit Isaiah Pacheco, and it was mainly because of the team they were playing, the Texans. The Texans are really tough against the run. I mean, yes, they gave up a red zone or a rushing touchdown, but that was something like the 10% they were giving up on the whole season when they're playing away. So I was really tough on Pacheco, and I think you're right. I think I would not want to go with Pacheco. I might still throw Hunt in there just because he's one of those guys that he's just a bruiser. He's just always going to be there in the red zone, but it is against Pittsburgh Steelers. I do like all of those players. There might be maybe Travis Etienne. Maybe if you have a Travis Etienne situation, I might slide one of those two in there.
I'd probably play Hunt over Etienne with you on that one. And I would actually play Hunt over Hunt and Pacheco. You know what? I'm going to stick with it. I've been saying this entire time. I'm saying it for the last 2 weeks. I might as well stick with what I keep saying. I play Hunt and Pacheco over Najee Harris on the other side of the ball. Nobody runs on the Chiefs. Najee Harris just stunk. This is why I said trade him. And hopefully he did because I just played Jalen Warren. Basically, it's George Pickens, Jalen Warren, and the end of it. And actually, that's a good question. Real quickly, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this because it's not a waiver option. But you trust George Pickens if he plays? I mean, if he plays, I feel like you have to have him as a wide receiver too. Maybe not, a 10-team, 2 wide receiver league, and you have depth or something like that. But I don't see how he's not out there if he's out there for the team.
Yeah, just like we talked about J.K. Dobbins, the Steelers have missed George Pickens, and that he is a focal part of that offense. He gets down the field. They have a connection, him and Russell Wilson. So, yeah, I do agree with you. I think that if Pickens is out there and he's playing, I think you have to go out there and play him. They want to still try to fight for some type of seeding in for the Steelers, and they want to get back on the same page with this. So it could be something where we do see George Pickens, have a pretty good game. So I think you have to roll him out there.
So this next part here, because it is Christmas themed, I was going to say originally we're going to play a little bench 'em and bench 'em 4. Now we're going to change it up because I wasn't even thinking of this. It is Christmas. So Cole, you get Cole. That's what you get to do. One of these 2 players gets the Cole. And the reason I brought this up from earlier is because I was like, you know what? Jerome Ford, if I happen to have Jerome Ford, and I happen to have these other 3 running backs, I think I sit all 3. Actually, I definitively sit 2.
Okay.
I think I sit all 3. One is so obvious to me. But you have to give one running back the Cole. That's the one that doesn't get to play this week. He's been a bad boy. You know what? I'll save the craziest one for last. I feel like the easiest one will go first. DeAndre Swift. Hasn't had double digits in the last 4 games. Hasn't had double digits in 5 of the last 6. Everybody told me I was nuts. DeAndre Swift's getting the workload, blah, blah, blah. I will victory lap that, especially when people call me nuts. So that's why I'll do it. But Jerome Ford over DeAndre Swift, or DeAndre Swift, Jerome Ford, who gets Cole in their stocking?
Swift is
not even a question, right?
Yeah, not even a question.
Okay. Rico Dowdle just came off 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. The game before that, he still scored double digits because he had almost 100 yards total, and he'd been amazing. Gets the Buccaneers defense, which is fearsome-ish. It's not the Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs. It's not like, but it's worse.
Vita Vea. That's what it is.
But that's the thing. That's why I say it's fearsome-ish, because you can get away from Vea. He's not the like I was gonna say, he kind of is the only one. It was just the Buccaneers are worrisome, but the fact that I think it was more to do with the Cowboys just not being able to get their offense away from things and their offensive line not being able to do things. So Rico Dowdle for the Cowboys this week. The Cowboys, they got moved. They head to Philly, which is one of the most worst matchups you can find. Yeah. So, Ford or Dowdle, who gets the Cole?
I'm still, Dowdle. Ford doesn't have the greatest matchup either, but I'm gonna go with Ford just because I know
Dowdle gets the Cole, right? Is what you're saying?
Yes, he gets the Cole.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like Dowdle. I like what he's done these last few games, especially last week. Even though he didn't have the greatest game, he got the touchdown vultured away from him, or the goal line vultured away from him with Ezekiel Elliott. And then not only that, they're starting to put Kevontae Turpin. Why are you putting a 155-pound wide receiver, 5'6"? I know he's electric. I know he is absolutely.
Boogie,
but
woogie.
Why are you putting him in the backfield? Like when Vita Vea
they're watching some Tutu Atwell tape. That's why.
Right. When Vita Vea got a hold of him last week, I was like, oh my God, I was praying for the guy's life, because I was like, this dude's going to get killed. But anyway, so it's just some of those things you can't trust this Cowboys offense. The running game, especially. The offense is getting a little bit better. Cooper Rush is starting to come into his own, but I think Ford is still going to be the guy for me in this.
I was legit expecting Vea to do that clip from the Hulk and Loki from Avengers and just pick Turpin up and just slam him back and forth. Just like,
man, a Hulk smash straight up on him, dude. I was like, what are they doing?
I would have loved it. Here's the last one. This is probably going to sound the craziest, but I'm going to make my case first, because this is why. Somebody gets the Cole between Jerome Ford and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon was somebody I also said to, and again, this is another one. Yeah, I will, because I said sell Joe Mixon. Look at his playoff schedule. The Texans' playoff schedule is miserable. and especially for running backs. And he's getting 20 touches a game. It's like, I get that. And to be clear, I'm not saying I sold them for anything. Like I today in hindsight would have actually sold them less than what I said. Like back then I was saying sell them for top 7, 8 running back value. If you can't get that, hold them. Looking back, I would have said sell them for top 15 running back value, because once you get here, you're not going to want to saddled by this anchor. And when I say anchor is because anchor to me feels like somebody who is getting 20 touches, but it's still dragging you down because it's not turning into anything, because the offensive line didn't come out of the bye better. The offense didn't come out of the bye better. With or without Tank Dell, prayers up for his knee, by the way. Yeah. Doesn't matter when it comes to Joe Mixon. The volume is there, but now the volume's there, but it's not the 25 touches. It's 18-ish, which is still great, but Goombawale in the passing game, they're mixing other people in. And what do they get? The Baltimore run defense, which also, by the way, they could fall behind and then have to pass, and that's why I bring up the Goombawale. Here's my very long case of why I'm saying if I have this lineup decision to make in Week 17, I know the name, and I look at the jersey, and I have my Texans hat sitting right there, so I look at the jersey and be like, yeah, that's a cool jersey. I'm sitting Dowdle. He's getting the coal over Jerome Ford in Week 17. I know what everybody's going to say, and maybe this is a mistake, but this is not a start your studs for me. The stud is not anymore a stud. He is now a lump of coal. Are you with me on Joe Mixon versus Jerome Ford?
Jake, I love you, man. I don't know if I can get with that. When I saw Joe Mixon on there, I was like, yeah, he's had a tough matchup. He's got a tough road ahead of him. Especially this week going against the Baltimore Ravens. But the Baltimore Ravens have given up a touchdown in the last 3 games. So, a rushing touchdown. So, it could go to Joe Mixon. It could go somewhere else. I get it. But I think that especially with the Tank Dell situation, they're going to have to lean heavy on Joe Mixon. I look, this morning I found out, I know it happened yesterday. They got Deontay Johnson on the team. He's not going to be playing anytime soon, I don't think. But I think that was a sneaky good pickup for them. Especially for next year with the Tank Dell situation. But I think that Joe Mixon, I think you got to roll out there with him. I know that you're saying don't start your studs. I get it. But I think you got to roll out there. I would still play Joe Mixon over Jerome Ford just slightly. I have Joe Mixon at number. Let me look at my. I have Joe Mixon at 14. I have 14. I have him too high. Look, I know, but it's the name for me. It's the name for me. It's what he's done for me, and what he's done for the course of the season again. Or when he's healthy, he's gotten me this far. And I think that you have to reward a player like that. And you would hate for a player like that to be sitting on your bench and he gets 17, 18, 20 points, and you missed out on that and you lose out on the chance. I think you still have to roll out there where if you have that scenario. If you have Jerome Ford or Joe Mixon, I slightly lean Joe Mixon, just a tad bit more.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. So far in this, no. The fact that Vegas, Vegas is Vegas. I'll give them that. But the implied total for the Texans is 21. I think Vegas is drunk. I think maybe they just they've been celebrating Christmas a little too much, because for the Ravens to only have a 4.5 line, I know it's on the road. And I know it's a short week, which the short week could throw everything out of whack. We might get a lot of running on Christmas in general. Mm-hmm. I think the Ravens are just gonna Wally stomp them. Yeah, I don't even know if that's a thing. I just made that up. Where's Waldo? As it was in my head or something like Wally stomp. That's a new one. We're gonna Wally stomp them.
There we
go. Here's one more. Actually, what about this one? Coming off a game where I was wrong. I was wrong in the fact that I had Chuba Hubbard at RB 14 last week, because I was worried that he had been inefficient since the bye. And he was actually 3.5 yards per touch, not even per carry, per touch, which is insane to think about.
Right.
He went nuts last week. I was wrong about that one. He gets a good matchup this week. The Carolina Panthers, are they at home or on the road on this one? I forget off the top of my head. I'm trying to find them right now. Carolina is at Tampa Bay. So they got the good matchup, again, to bring up the Vita Vea, as long as you stay away from Vita Vea. The Buccaneers are favorable because he'll get used in the passing game. Mm-hmm. Chuba Hubbard versus Joe Mixon. Are you still going Joe Mixon in that one?
That one I might. I do have Chuba Hubbard. I have him right now. I have him at 10. I like Chuba Hubbard. I love Chuba Hubbard. I think that is a play this week for you. It's a revenge narrative with Dave Canales again, and now he gets to go back to Tampa Bay. So you could see you could see some of that offense open up a little. They don't have anything to play for. You can see the offense open up a little bit, some nice plays here and there. And Bryce Young has been, man, look, the kid, if he can bulk up like another 20 pounds, I mean the kid has done a good job these last few games. I'll have to give it to him. And Chuba Hubbard's been right there with him.
Just ignore week 15.
Just ignore
week 15. So it's funny, you say that as a quick sidebar on that, as somebody who has been the Bryce Young supporter and has talked positively at most aspects of his game and said, like, hey, this is why there's still hope. People have challenged me, like, would you take Bryce Young versus, being completely ridiculous about it, like even throwing Spencer Rattler in there. And I'm like, no, it's Bryce Young. It's Bryce Young. Both he and Caleb Williams, they made some really good improvements. And then you saw the flaws show up again for like a game or two. And this is all I'm saying to say is this. It's going to take some process. Like, not every quarterback is going to come right out of the gate. And why this is something where, again, this is actually me kind of admitting I was wrong, because the first 2 games of the Commander season, I on this very show with Chris Meany back then, I said, what the hell are the Commanders doing? Jaden Daniels can throw it deep. He can throw the ball outside. He has one of the better arms. Why are they letting him? And I'm like, why aren't they letting him? Why aren't they letting him? It's killing Terry McLaurin. It's killing this offense. It's a muted offense. What are we doing here? And then the 3rd, 4th game happened. And right after about that 4th game, I was like, you know what? Cliff Kingsbury is a smart man. He's smarter than I am, because Cliff Kingsbury said, Jaden Daniels, you get to do this. Okay, check the box. Now you get to do this. Check the box. Now you get to do this. The difference between Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, and Jaden Daniels is Caleb Williams and Bryce Young got thrown in and say, hey, you get to do all these boxes at once. Good luck. And you saw the coaching changes and then the benching for Bryce Young. They came back, and both of them kind of said, similar to that, it's like, oh, we'll take it down. We'll parse it down to you do these couple things. Mm-hmm. And you saw signs of it. And when they opened it back up, both of them kind of stumbled. And I think, again, what I'm saying is I think Caleb Williams can still be top 10. I think Bryce Young can still be a mid-tier, successful NFL quarterback. Maybe some of the best years of Geno Smith, because he's not going to run a ton. That's just not who Bryce Young is. I think. So are you with me on the fact that Caleb Williams, top 10, Bryce Young, Geno Smith, those careers are still possible? They're not done yet.
I like that breakdown that you said, because you're right. It's Jaden Daniels, the way it's almost like they brought him along slowly. They said, okay, look, we're gonna bring you along. I even remember back on Monday night against the Bengals, and Jaden Daniels was like, give me the next play. I'm ready for the next play. Like, he wanted the next play, and they almost were like, okay, dude, we like, this is only week 3? Like, hold on, calm down. We're gonna give it to you as you go. But Caleb Williams, I agree with you. They've given him everything, and he just it's hard to process, first of all, because it's an NFL. It's faster than what he's used to. The players are a lot bigger than what he's used to. He has a bad offensive line, but I do see the talent there. When he makes some throws, I'm like, wow, these throws are beautiful, and he makes some plays with his feet. So I agree with you. I don't think that it's the end of Caleb Williams. A lot of people are out there saying that. I don't think that. I think that he still has a lot to prove, and I think he has a lot to go on. Same thing for Bryce Young, too. I know that everybody talks about the size situation, but I think if you have a good offensive line, which actually the Carolina Panthers have been a pretty decent offensive line here as of late. I don't know what they fixed overnight. I don't know what they did, but PFF had them ranked as the number 11 ranked offensive line, which is good by their standards, because they're usually a bottom-feeding offensive line. So they're protecting Bryce Young. They're getting the protection there. They're running the ball effectively to an extent. I mean, the yard per carry, that is something to look at. But they're effectively running the ball, giving Chuba Hubbard the ball in space and getting him involved in the passing game. So I think that it's a situation that we all should monitor. But I think that it's a bright future for all 3 of those going forward.
Okay, well, let's talk some wide receivers before we get out of here. And one, everybody of this podcasting listening crew, which thank you all, and Merry Christmas to you. So that you are my Christmas present for listening. Thank you. That sounds cheesy. My boy Jalen McMillan, who had been in the waiver column pretty much the entire year, mostly because I said, well, he was way down the list. Way down the list, to be fair. And the biggest thing to start the year, he was in this list of wide receivers, if something happens, could step up. Like 3s, 4s, you needed an injury, you needed something to clear out. And then Godwin got hurt, as we know. And then what happened? Jalen McMillan got hurt. And then he missed time, and he wasn't even able to get out there. And finally he came back. Over the last 3 weeks, 50.1 points.
Yeah.
That's wide receiver 11. If you just points per game, because you're like, hey, points per game matter a little bit more. Okay, cool. He's got 16.7 fantasy points per game. He's wide receiver 13. So wide receiver 13 would make it say he's a must start everywhere. But obviously, we're going to say they don't need to lean on Jalen McMillan. Mike Evans is still chasing his 1,000 yards, and we know that's in the back of Baker Mayfield's mind.
Yep.
They still have 2 great running backs to rely on. They're facing Carolina. They might not need McMillan. So I'm saying this to set up the question of being Jalen McMillan, given what he's done over the last 3 weeks, ranking him as a wide receiver 3 based on opportunity, what he's done, is too low. But can we put him higher than that, given the matchup and everything we know, when we look at it from like this NFL lens of like, what if he doesn't get the touchdown and it's 40, 50 yards? Like, he's been somewhat touchdown reliant, and then now I just poo-pooed my guy. But to be said, I just want, like, how far would you go in your, like, you already have your rank. Like, where did you end up with Jalen McMillan this week?
Yeah, I ended up Jalen McMillan. I ended up with him at number 28.
Why do you hate Jalen McMillan?
I don't hate him. I don't hate him. It's just, I think he falls in line with that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and that's right. Kind of where I have. I don't hate him. It's just, it is a boom or bust situation, and like you said, look.
He's in the group with like Devonta Smith. This is not like the funny thing is nobody complains when Devonta Smith is in the low 20s.
Right.
But everybody's like, why don't you, if you love Jalen McMillan so much, why isn't he inside the top 20?
Yeah.
Like it's the same dudes.
And you know, my ranking, because I mean the games are now, it is changeable, so I can bump him up as time goes. I do want to monitor K. Dotton. It doesn't seem like I know that he was definitely out last week. It doesn't seem like that could throw a monkey wrench.
That was weird, by the way. It was
like
he was out, and then Sunday came around, and they're all of a sudden like game time decision. I was like, wait. You just said he was out this morning. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, it was very strange. So I want to monitor that. I know that K. Dotton, I don't trust him at all right now. Even if he does come back, but
here I'll give you a toss up.
If
you have to set your lineup on Tuesday, but I'm going to give you a scenario. No K. Dotton, Garrett Wilson versus Jalen McMillan in Week 17.
You know, Garrett Wilson did run his mouth yesterday on Instagram. Did you see that? It could be one of those things where, you know, that squeaky wheel narrative. But I think Aaron Rodgers just doesn't give a crap about anybody but Devontae Adams on that team. So it's like have you noticed Aaron Rodgers has been a little like he's been a little bit more jolly lately. I don't know his demeanor.
Oh, because he knows he might not have a job next year.
Yeah,
this dude, first of all, this dude is like, look at me. I'm here. I'm on this show. Every chance I get, I'm going to put my face. And then all of a sudden it's like, don't look at me. You pay too much attention. Leave me alone. Like, what the hell? Second part is he goes from, I'm playing through no ankle, no knee, no shoulder, blah, blah. Like, I'm playing through 17 injuries on the night from Monty Python to, I'm 100% and feel good. This is the best I've been all year long. And then goes from, I don't see myself with this team. I'm considering other things for 2025 to all of a sudden where everybody was like, oh, if that's the case, see you later, buddy. And then he's like, oh, maybe nobody gives two craps about me except for Pat McAfee. Maybe I should start playing nice. This is 100% a trick. This is the Scrooge version that's lying. He's not really trying to change his life at the end. He's just trying to get this presents.
Yeah, no, it's so bizarre with this situation. But I do have Garrett Wilson ranked a little bit higher than Jalen McMillan. I will say that. So I do have him ranked higher just because I think it might be the squeaky narrative thing. They've been playing really good, the Jets here as of late. I think that you roll out with those two wide receivers and Aaron Rodgers. Look, in the Scott Fish Bowl League, which I'm out of the finals now. I do have Aaron Rodgers and I have Devontae Adams. So the last couple of weeks.
You were in the
really
semifinals?
Nice. I was in the semifinals.
Oh, why? Did you draft 7 kickers or something?
No, it's so
stupid
crazy.
Scott Fish Bowl.
I tell you what, man. I didn't draft any. I drafted Justin Tucker. He's been an issue. Terrible. But I didn't really draft any of the returners. I picked up returners off the waivers, and
so there you
those
go.
Those guys were okay. They filled in for bye weeks. But I mean, I have Bijan. I have Justin Jefferson. My darling in that league is Sam Darnold because just darling Darnold. Yeah. So anyway, so I got Sam Darnold. Yeah. So I have Sam Darnold in that league, and I picked him up really, really late because it was before the J.J. McCarthy situation. So he was the one that was really.
Yeah, he's the really saved everything. Well, it's a holiday, so deck the halls with Darnold.
There you go. Deck the halls with Darnold. Deck the halls with Darnold.
What else you could like? Mary Mayfield. So.
I like it.
You know what? I wanted to give you one more toss-up. Where was I going with this? The wide receiver. There was one more.
Oh, I know. We went all over the place.
Darnell Mooney or Jalen McMillan.
Now this is a tough one because I
actually here. I'm going to give you three.
Okay.
Jordan Addison with Darling Darnold or Deck the Halls with Darnold. Sorry, Santa Sam. There you go. That's even better. Santa Sam's, Jordan Addison, Darnell Mooney, or Jalen McMillan. Those three. How would you go this week?
I would go. Mooney would be my third guy, just because I got to see more from this offense, and I'm gonna watch some film on Michael Penix today. I saw some plays. I saw a couple plays where I was like, oh wow, okay, he's definitely better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I'll save you the quick version. You saw basically like the flashes. The rest of the game, he was basically Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it was there.
And Kyle Pitts stinks.
What
the hell happened to Kyle? Kyle Pitts was good at some point, right? Like, we're not imagining this. Well, this isn't like revision.
He was good in college.
He was good his rookie season.
He was 6'8". Well, yeah, he had 1,000 yards, but he had one touchdown. I mean, he was a behemoth amongst boys in college. You get to the NFL, these dudes maybe not as tall as you, but they're just as big and just as fast.
Yeah, just as fast. I know. It's just, I just want to make sure we weren't like the same thing like Trevor Lawrence. We weren't imagining this guy was actually good at some point. So
yeah. So
here's one.
So the question.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, I'm gonna go Jalen McMillan first. I think Jalen McMillan. Who was the second guy? Because I got Mooney, but there was another.
I have to think of it like Amazing Addison. No, Amazing.
Oh no, yeah, it was okay.
Jordan made a Christmas song for Addison.
I think I still will go with McMillan over Addison. It's been a toss up, but I think that look,
touchdown machine.
He has been a touchdown, but I will say this: they are getting focused in on Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson has been on a tear these last couple of weeks, and specifically. So I think that he's taken a little bit of a back seat to Addison at one point, and then now it's like, okay, let's get Justin Jefferson involved. And so it could go either way. I just think that, McMillan with the matchup, I like that matchup a little bit more. You got the Green Bay Packers coming in, and look, Jake, the Green Bay Packers, dare I say, I think they can make a run in these playoffs, man. This team looks good. This team did exactly what they were supposed to do last night, beat up on a lesser team. And I love to see that, because you see teams like the Arizona Cardinals, you see teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, who are supposed to beat up on the little brothers, and they don't do it. And this team did it. They beat up on the little brother, and they said, you know what, go home, go here's your warm milk and go to bed. And that's what they did, and I loved it. And I think that Green Bay has something in store for these Minnesota Vikings this week too. So that's
I actually kind of hope you're right, because Meany forced me to pivot off of this because I didn't want the same Super Bowl as him. We were both, I'm pretty sure we said Bills Lions, and then I was like, you know what, we can't, basically, because he went first. And I'm almost positive I switched, and I was like, I want to go with my Texans, but that feels weird. And I went Ravens Packers. So it was like something we haven't seen before, and you're making me switch off the Lions. So I wouldn't mind the Lions either. I'd actually refreshing to not have the Packers there. But I'm with you. The Packers look for two more things real quick. I want to get out of here on this. So if I told you there was a wide receiver for the last two games that has 6 targets, 3 receptions, and 24 yards combined. And then if you go back to 2 games before that, he had 3 for 17 with a 5 for 91 and a touchdown in between. So his game log over the last 3 games, this wide receiver, 3.2, 17.7, 0.0, hint, hint, and 3.9. Is Cooper Kupp in your fantasy lineup if you somehow made it with Cooper Kupp? Like, if his name wasn't Matthew Kupp, I guess Matthew Stafford wasn't his quote. To be fair, part of the reason I actually should bring him into this conversation is Matthew Stafford. I actually am going to include this in my rankings column if nobody's there. Well, I guess depending on when you're listening to this. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, you haven't seen it yet. If you listened to this Wednesday, you might have. And go back to it real quick. Where is the Rams breakdown because I want to give you this little nugget I found on Matthew Stafford. So Matthew Stafford, that was his first time having back-to-back sub-200 passing yard games since last year mid-season. And guess who they faced after that when he threw 4 touchdowns? The Cardinals. Hey, guess who they faced this week? The Cardinals.
Oh, boy.
So, did I just make you put Cooper Kupp back in your lineup this week, even though he's done nothing?
I know, and you know, my colleague now, Dave Kluge, put a really funny post out there, and he basically it was Jake Gyllenhaal running off into the sunset and in the dark clouds, basically saying that was Cooper Kupp the last 2 weeks. It's been very, very, very bad. But, man, look, again, this is like one of those players kind of like with Joe Mixon for me, where I would hate to tell somebody, yeah, go out there. You can't play him. He's been terrible. And then he just gets in the end zone and does Cooper Kupp things. I have no doubt in my mind now.
Would you be that upset, though?
I just –
I guess so.
I would be. I would be. But it's no doubt Puka Nacua, this is his offense now as far as the wide receivers goes. It's no doubt. And Kyron Williams is taking some of the passing game work. Tyler Higbee now being back, that's going to throw a monkey wrench in it. But I think it actually helps the offense a little bit more. It helps Matthew Stafford. I think Cooper Kupp still has to remain in your lineup. I wouldn't be mad if you maybe talked about Jordan Addison. You know, we talked about him just a minute ago. I would possibly maybe put Jordan Addison in front of him, but I still think it's Cooper Kupp. I still think, hey, you got him for a reason. He's lasted this long. He has been hurt this season, but he's lasted this long now. He's in your championship. You got him there. I think you have to roll with Cooper Kupp this week.
You want to hear something nuts? I might have to tweet this out after the show.
You're not gonna do it.
I mean, I don't think I can. Wide receivers with more fantasy points than Cooper Kupp in the month of December. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who didn't even play on Monday Night Football. Mac Hollins, Brandon Cooks, Michael Wilson, Calvin Austin, Kayshon Boutte with a bye in there.
Oh my god! You're talking. See, Jake. When
Ray McLeod has 5 more points than he does in December.
Oh my god! When you say that now you make a really strong point. But I still got to do it. I got to. I can't. I understand. It's those are.
It's that 17.7. You see the 17.7, and that's what it comes down to.
I see that. And you know that there is potential. You know there's potential, even though that he's had a really bad 2-game stretch. And you know what? Another thing too is we got to look at how many has he had 3 bad games in a row, Cooper Kupp? Because I'm pretty sure in his tenure, when he's healthy, he hasn't had that many bad games in a row. I don't think, like, for instance, I knew that CeeDee Lamb back early in the season, it was almost non-existent that if he had a bad game, he's going to follow that up with another bad game. He was going to always have a really good game after that. And I think this year he actually had 2 bad games in a row, but after that he had a really good 3rd game. So I think with the Cooper Kupp thing, I think you got to roll him out there. I think you do have to. You named off some some players.
Disgusting names?
Yes, it was bad, but I still think you just got to go out there, press the start button, close your eyes, and just hope for the best, man. That's it.
Well, now you got me looking. So let's say I'm clicking up. I'm pulling up on True Media his complete game log to see if we can find. So since 2017.
Has he had 3 bad games in a row?
3 games in a row?
Yeah, because that is something. I mean, these players are prideful. You know, these guys are, and you know, Matthew Stafford. Yeah.
All right, so we're not counting his rookie season because his rookie
season
is not. Yeah, 2017 doesn't really count because he had 3 games in a row then where he had 7 points against the Giants, Texans, and Vikings. But again, that's the rookie season. So let's start 2018. Had 1.2 against Denver the very next week, 17.4. There's 2 in a row, 6.4 and 8.1, 3.78, and then he had a 31, 6, and then a 15. Oh, here we go. 2020. 2020, he had a 9.1, 2.6, and an 8.9 in October. I'm assuming he was healthy and 100% because in week 8, he did have 16.5. So there's 3 in a row right there. And then, starting 2021 is where it's like, holy crap, try to find a single-digit game. 2021, he had a single-digit game in week 4, and that was it. 2022, he had a single-digit score in week 10. That's actually when he got hurt, and that was it. 2023. Well, here you go. Just last year, we should have remembered this. I forgot about it. Remember last year? He wasn't even healthy to start the year.
Yeah.
He showed up in week 5, and then it was 5.9, 4.1, 5.8, 1.6, 3.3, and then he woke up. Well, not woke up. He got healthy. So I don't know if we can include that either because he wasn't 100% to start last year, and it took some time to get rolling. And so there's other people. So he has one time in 2020 to answer your question, kind of. We'll say it has happened once before. So there's your history is not on your side here.
It's not on my side. I'm still rolling him out there, though. Still roll him out there, guys. You got to roll out.
The longest conversation just to stay on Cooper Kupp. All right, let's get out of here.
It's a good one, though. Yeah, it's something.
Two quick names.
We're going to want to know it.
Hollywood Brown is one. Hollywood Brown, 8 targets, second leading targets on this team. A lot of people wanted to pick him up last week. I said, that's fine. Do not start him. And if you did start, like if you didn't or did, it's not like you missed out or got a lot. It wasn't a huge game, but it was the 8 targets. The thing was, it was 8 targets on 33% of the routes. And you saw Andy Reid, he's like, hey, we need to get him more routes. Yeah. Cool. If he gets 60% of the routes and he stays with that volume, awesome, because now we're talking 12, 13, 14 targets. That's obviously not going to happen. But Hollywood Brown, I'm going to do a toss-up for you. If you had to pick up Hollywood Brown and start him against the Steelers on Christmas, or go back to somebody who did not help you get into the playoffs, did not even help you advance because he was probably on your bench last week. Actually, a lot of people even dropped him at this point because that's how miserable it had been. Deebo Samuel finally showed up. Deebo Samuel finally looked like Deebo Samuel for the first time this year.
He's auditioning.
If you had to pick one, would you pick up Hollywood Brown and start him, or would you go back to Deebo Samuel in Week 17?
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a toss-up because, like I said, I think Deebo is auditioning. I think he understands that he is probably not going to be a 49er next year. I don't think he's going to want to take a cut. So I think you still roll out there with Deebo. Just this, I would do it this once over him. It's I think both of them. I think it is a toss-up for either or. I want to see more from Hollywood Brown. I think that he is just getting the training wheels off. I know that him and Patrick Mahomes had a good relationship or a good rapport or building a good rapport in the offseason. That's why you saw them go to him early and pretty often. I just think it's a little bit more that we need to see from it. I don't think that he really hits his stride until we get into the playoffs, of the NFL playoffs, not the fantasy, the NFL playoffs for Hollywood. I still think you go with Deebo because I think at the end of the season, I remember several years back, Algie Crumpler had like a 3-touchdown game out of nowhere for the Falcons, and it was like, oh, he's auditioning to play for another team, and what happened? Lo and behold, I think he ended up playing for another team that season. So I think the same thing
Crumpler.
for DJ.
Wasn't expecting that.
Right. Like no, I like so you got to look at things like that at the end of the season. You know that a guy's probably not going to be back with his team next year. He still wants to possibly play football, and he's somewhat healthy now. I mean, he's done with the pneumonia thing and some of the issues that he's had during the season. I think that you still roll out there with it.
The pneumonia thing, like you made it sound like he just made that up. Like he's dealing with the pneumonia thing.
But it was weird though. He came back and played like the same week, like or not even a week after, like. I don't know.
After they were saying he might be hospitalized. I remember that. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, what kind of, like, was it an acute pneumonia? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, like, it's so one of those things. I think that Deebo Samuel is a guy that you do have to play this week. They're shambles at running back, so they're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to spoil the Lions as best they can, although I think the Lions mollywopped them this week. So, and get ready for that because we're going to see all sorts of trick plays.
Remember, you're on the show, so now it's Wally smacked.
Wally
smacked.
Wally smacked.
Wally smacked. Hopefully you Wally smack your championships. Hopefully you get some extra Christmas, no coals in those stockings. At Tipp Major, make sure you check out. Hey, one more time, tell everybody where they can find all your good things.
Thanks again, Jake. Man, I love doing this with you. Football guys, the sports affiliation. The Rip and Tip space on Thursday nights, the sit and start questions that we have, and we're going to have another one on a space with Scott the King Angle, Sam Wagman of Football Guys, and Ronnie Evans as well. Sometimes Frank Amarante from Game Day, he jumps in as well. But yeah, we always have a fun time on that one. Scott the King Angle does some really good impressions. I was impressed by some of his impressions. He's really good. But anyway, but yeah, that's where you can find me, man. And of course, at Tipp Major. But yeah.
Just don't ask Scott to do Beavis and Butthead unless you're a super fan of Beavis and Butthead because he will do that.
He is fun.
Yeah, see, I knew it. All right. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hopefully this covered everything you needed for waivers and rankings and your championships. And I'll be back next week. We're going to do week 18, whatever it might be, for whatever format or nonsense you decide to play. Well, not nonsense. Nonsense if it's your championship week. But this hasn't been nonsense. Bench Joe Mixon. He stinks unless you're Tip Major.
Don't do it.